Welcome back to the Planet Princess Podcast. This is your host, Princess Nani. I just wanted to tie off where we left off yesterday. So yesterday we talked a lot about limiting beliefs and how to start to confront them. And today I just wanted to just explain what the full process is of eliminating a limiting belief. Now, remember, limiting beliefs, they're not overt, they're not extremely obvious a lot of the times. A lot of the times they're sneaky and they're subconscious. They are the way that you normally think. They are the way that you normally plan, and they are the way that you normally make decisions in your life. Anytime you have a thought pattern rooted in fear, scarcity, anxiety, that is how you uncover what a limiting belief is. And notice how there's always some icky, sticky feeling, emotion tied to it as well. Okay, so that's another big way to spot a limiting belief in your life. So what I want you to do today is, yesterday we started to find proof of what our limiting beliefs are, right? We started to just question ourselves, just get curious around, how you're already making decisions in your life right now. And today we want to find proof. We want to find proof of the opposite of the limiting belief. And the reason why we have to do this is because you have to prove to your brain that it's not true. And the easiest way to explain this is that everything in your life, everything in your mind is a survival function. So your brain, your body's sole purpose in life is just to keep you alive. You're wired to survive. You're not necessarily wired to thrive. And the only way to really dismantle a limiting belief that's really holding you back, that pops up every single time, you say that you want more and you try to make plans for the future, and it's like you hit this invisible brick wall. You need to find proof of the exact opposite around you. And finding proof means two different things, okay? You can actually find proof examples of other people, or you may just have to trust your gut. You may just have to trust your gut and create proof, because as a creator, as a one manifestation of God, you have the ability to create anything that you want. You are made in the image of a creator, God. So you are either going to have to trust your gut. So anything that you're thinking, any thought that you have that feels a bit suffocating, that feels a little too like a chokehold, okay, it's going to feel very icky, very sticky. It's going to feel, honestly, it may even be a little depresso. Like, it may just be like, it's just depressing to think about it. It may make you feel empowered. Anything that you're thinking that makes you feel empowered, disempowered. Anything that you're thinking that makes you feel disempowered, anything that you're thinking that causes you to lose hope in the future, pay attention to how you feel in your body when you're having certain types of thoughts, because that's really going to be the truest indicator that you have that the thought that you're thinking is actually a limiting belief. And as you start to process these things out, it's going to get very overwhelming, because remember, the most efficient way for your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind to unload everything that it's been carrying is not by spoon feeding you tiny experiences. Sometimes what happens is it gets overwhelming because that is the survival part of your brain trying to kick in. That's the survival part of your brain trying to reinforce the limiting belief by giving you more evidence in your 3D world that you're justified in thinking that way, even if it's holding you back, even if it is just exhausting. Okay, that is why we do our energy healing sessions. So the link for that is in the show description below, and I just want you to have every tool that you need to successfully navigate this. If you find yourself making progress, but it's like very, very slow and it's frustrating, and remember, frustration locks the reality that you're experiencing that you no longer wish to experience anymore. Frustration locks that in so much more deeper because your brain thinks that you're giving so much emotion to something that you must love it, right? And that could be the total opposite of what you actually feel. But remember, you want to give your strongest feelings, the bulk of your attention, to the things that you want. That's the law of attraction. But the process of letting go of limiting beliefs, that's really going to supercharge your ability to make good decisions. And a belief is simply a decision. Okay? So when you're dismantling your limiting beliefs, you really want to ask yourself, is this true for every single person on the planet? You know, and a good way to also look at it is, what was the first moment you felt this way, right? What was the first moment in your life that caused you to change the way that you saw yourself? And these can be micro moments. Sometimes they're really not super huge and traumatic events. Sometimes it's really just like the little things that adds up, and it's the little things that breaks the camel's back, you know? Okay, so now keep this organized in the note section on your phone, and you really want to remember all of the times in your life that you felt this same nagging and overwhelming feeling. And the reason why that is because you want to keep track of, for the sake of letting go, you want to keep track of all the times that this feeling was brought up, only because you need to just kind of have a better understanding of all the times that it got reinforced. Okay, that's important in dismantling the limiting belief, because you can think back and know that, you know, did you really have to respond that way? Were you responding, or reacting is actually a better word. Were you reacting to life because of a past experience? Like, were you using a past experience to justify a reaction that happened after something happened? We do that a lot as humans. We allow the past to dictate the present, and because we allow the past to dictate the present, we then allow the past to recreate and create the future. Okay, so it's always good to just have a better understanding of the times in your life that this feeling kept popping up, because 9 times out of 10 it's really going to be the same feeling. Okay, it's really going to be the same triggers. It's really going to be the same decisions that you make over and over again. And because it's been a constant cycle, it's very deep rooted, and more than anything, we really want to wipe away. Like, imagine taking like a Clorox wipe and just wiping the counter on your kitchen, we're doing the same thing with our limiting beliefs. We're wiping them away from our active responses to life. Okay, we're wiping them away from how we are going to make decisions going forward. Okay, and I just want to reiterate that paying attention to how you feel in your body is the most important thing, because the more you pay attention in your body, the more you do your energy healing sessions, that's going to allow you the grace and the safety that you need in order to really let everything go this time. You know, if you don't want to be on the personal development hamster wheel, you really want to heal for the last time, then it's really important to pay attention to how you feel in your body, because all of that is a vibration. Okay, that vibration is then being cast out into the ether, into the world, into the universe, however you want to think about it. There's a very good book called Thought Vibrations, and it scientifically shows you how your thoughts are actually a vibration, how whatever goes on in your head and the emotions that you have, that's the spiritual nature of you as a human being. And then those thoughts and feelings then go out and create our lives. Now remember, if we have a limiting belief, if we have unprocessed traumas and emotions, then those things are lying. Even if they're unconscious, right? Even if they're subconscious, we are still using those actively to create our life. And that's not what we want to do anymore. Okay, we really want to process that stuff out so that it stops being the roadmap that life then goes and creates for us. And you'll notice, right, as soon as you start to process out these stuff, maybe things get intense for a while, right? That's the 3 buckets of confirmation. Sometimes things get worse. Sometimes you get the manifestation. Sometimes you are met with silence. And one thing that you will start to notice is that when you're processing out something that is super unconscious, something that is super deep, a lot of the times you are either met with silence or you are met with things getting worse. And that does not mean that you're doing it wrong. That actually means that you are doing it right. It's just like, if you invest in the stock market and the market takes a dip, right? Most people would panic, right? But if you are knowledgeable, if you are skilled, if you've been doing this for a while, or you have really great mentors, you know that when the market takes a dip, that's when everything is on sale. Okay? When your energy takes a dip while you're processing, while you're manifesting, all that means is that your soul is selling off all of the junk that it does not need. And this is where most people actually get tripped up, is because they get tripped up in what is going on in their minds. That is the absolute worst thing that you could ever do, because the more you pay attention to the story, the more the story then perpetuates, and the more it actually starts to sound logical. Now that is very dangerous, especially if these thoughts, these feelings, which are beliefs, are causing you to make decisions that honestly are not good. Okay, so we never want to get trapped in the story. We just want to train our minds and our bodies to focus back on the feeling that is in our body. All right, we want, whenever those thoughts and feelings pop up, sometimes I know that you're going to think, oh, I'm not having a physical sensation. But if you take a moment, you pause, and you really pay attention to your body, at a deep level you are. But it may be very, very unconscious. And that's why you may not be having a physical sensation. You may not be kinesthetically aware of the feeling and the sensation that's happening. But if you take a step back, if you just trust the process, you'll start to understand that, yeah, there's like a phantom feeling that I'm feeling, okay? Let that process out. And as you start to process this stuff out, remember, train your brain and your body to focus on the sensation in your body. Do not get caught up in the thoughts and the stories, because they are going to sound so logical. It's going to feel like it makes all the sense in the world. And it's like, have you ever talked to your best friend and you both were like on one, you were like going back and forth, being delulu in a way that's actually non-productive, and because you're parroting back to each other, it becomes like a echo chamber, okay? The same thing happens in your brain when you're feeding into your own instability. And by instability, I just mean you're feeding into the trauma. You're feeding into the disempowering ways of thought that keep you circling and feeling stuck. So just train your brain and your body to trust the fact that if you refocus on how you feel in your body and you focus on nothing else as much as you can, things will begin to shift. And the more you do this, you are actually going to see things in your life begin to shift as well, okay? Things will get better because you are releasing the parts of yourself that have been holding you back, okay? So just trust the process. And you'll know that you're processing things out is because you're going to start feeling better, right? You actually are going to start feeling better. You are going to start feeling like you have more clarity, okay? And you are going to start feeling more lighthearted. You are going to feel less weighed down by life, by circumstances, by things in your external reality. And really trust the process here, because you are going to start to notice that what's going on internally is being reflected externally. And the more you look for proof of that, the more you will find confirmation. Okay? So I know that it gets very, very intense. And again, that is why we do our energy healing sessions, to process out just the bulk of those heavy emotions. So as we're going through this process, remember, the conscious mind is the final gatekeeper on what we decide to keep and what we decide to let go of. So this process can cause a lot of cognitive load on you, right? It can be very exhausting. And if you are feeling just like a little tired, that's normal. If you're feeling, a little more hungry, that's normal. If you're having weird cravings, that's normal. But still, in those moments, always honor your body. Choose the healthiest alternative. That's one thing that I always do. Okay? So you will start to feel better. Things will start to get lighter. You may go through a period where, if you've ever done like a physical detox, right? Like with heavy metals or anything like that, it's the same thing. It's like you have a dip in energy and then it goes back up again. And it actually goes back up more optimally. Okay? One of the most important things that I need you to understand as you're going through this process is called the law of grace. Okay? So this will sometimes feel like a roller coaster ride, which is why we use the energy healing sessions to create just more stability and safety, to protect our nervous systems from being overloaded from this process. And we don't want to feel burnt out, because that then actually can be overwhelming. So we do our energy healing sessions, right? They're in the show notes below. And also, we just remember the law of grace. Now, the law of grace just gives you breathing room. It gives you headroom in order to stop judging yourself throughout this process. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to get everything right. Okay, I know that with trauma-informed manifestation advice, that's something that's very, very important to mention, because a lot of the times these traumas can really affect how we feel about ourselves. They affect how worthy we feel, because we're now the person that XYZ happened to, okay? And that can be very, very disempowering. So always lean on the law of grace, which says that you don't have to be 100% perfect. All you have to do is be kind to yourself throughout this process, okay? Because the reality is that your mind is going to be very relentless. Remember, when you start to process out all the old baggage, your brain is going to panic at some level, because that has been the operating system that you've been surviving from up until this point. And now you're saying, no, thank you. So it's going to try and prove to you that it's actually protecting you. So that's why we really, really, really have to be very diligent in finding proof and questioning everything, like a 5-year-old in the back of the car after school. Like, we really, 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 really want to just question everything and feel safe to question everything that goes on in our brains. We really want to ask ourselves, is this true for everyone? But most importantly, do I really want this to be true for me? That's the most important question you can ever ask yourself. Because if you're caught in a line of thinking that is depresso, that's dragging you down, that is making you feel like crap inside, that's a big red flag that line of thought is actually inaccurate. Okay? So just remind yourself in those moments to just relax into your body. That's going to create a lot of safety when it gets very, very intense. Okay? Remember the law of grace. You do not have to be 100% perfect. You just have to set a clear intention that you will be persistent until you win. Because if you decide that you are going to overcome this limitation that is self-created, it will leave. Because even though the unconscious and the subconscious direct 95 to 99% of your life, we have what's called a prefrontal cortex. So that prefrontal cortex actually is like leverage. So our cognitive functioning as a human being it directs the unconscious and the subconscious. Our cognitive functioning is actually how we were programmed in the first place, right? We had an experience and we cognitively assigned meaning to the world and to ourselves, okay? Now what we're doing is we are reassigning meaning to things that have happened and choosing to remember that in those moments when our brains and our bodies are rampant with just feelings and thoughts and we are feeling overwhelmed, that the only thing that we can do in that moment is just relax and feel safe in our bodies. Okay, and it can be very, very, very intense. So again, I just wanted to mention that the energy healing sessions are in the show description. Okay, and just remember, I know that it can be hard sometimes, but the less you slip back into those thought patterns, the more you move on, okay? And remember, we get the 3 buckets of confirmation. So at the end of the day, you are going to get whatever it is that you want to manifest. That's guaranteed, okay? All you have to do is process through the silence and process through the times where things get worse. And it's not going to be like Groundhog's Day, okay? It's not going to be like month after month things just get worse. No, I really want to set that expectation very, very clearly right now. It is only going to be for a couple of days or a couple of weeks at most, okay? Things actually will get better very, very soon if you create the safety that you need in your body ahead of time, so that when you are feeling extremely overwhelmed, feeling very fearful and anxious and worrying, you have grief, you're thinking of the past, you're thinking of mistakes that you may have made or traumas that may have happened, and you're starting to go back into those stories. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to hold my breath, right? Because it interrupts the brain. The brain is like, oh, wait, like, what's happening? That's good, okay? That's actually a ninja trick. You can hold your breath. You can do a forward fold. You can snap your finger, okay? You want to do physical things that bring you back to the present moment. And again, you can look around you and describe what it is that you see. You can reorient yourself to the present moment, okay? So those are some really, really good things that you can do when it's just like get me out of here, right? We want to stay in the uncomfort. You never want to rush through that. If you try to rush through it, it will pop up again. Okay? So remember, would you rather process out all of these yucky, destructive feelings at 15 miles per hour or 150 miles per hour? And the only difference is feeling safe in your body. Okay? Because what you'll notice actually in a short amount of time is that you are going to start having new thoughts and you are going to start having new feelings that help you create a better reality. And that's something that's guaranteed, okay? Just know that this is going to come in waves. It will get more intense, but it will also get better. And the more you can remain positive throughout this experience, the easier it will be, okay? So do your moving energy healing sessions that are linked below. That's really going to make this process a lot easier. That's going to create so much safety and comfort in your body so that by the time, you find yourself in a moment of overwhelm, you're not even worried because you're like, I got this. Like, I feel secure and safe enough to breathe through this, right? To just lean into the uncomfort. And the more you lean into the uncomfort, the more comfortable it gets. Okay. So I really, really hope that was helpful. And these things are really going to help you break that loop once and for all. There's no trauma that can overpower this process. Okay, there's nothing that you have been through in your life that can be stronger than your free will unless you let it. And I really, really just wanted to stress that because at the end of the day, you do have a choice. You can choose to feel empowered, right? You can choose to feel like you are in control of your life, or you can default back to feeling how you always feel. And if you feel how you always feel, if nothing changes, then nothing changes. And this just becomes another everything you tried and wasn't able to really create that big shift in your life that you've been wanting. So maybe at this point, it's really good idea to ask yourself, do you believe that you can actually manifest what it is that you are trying to manifest? Do you believe that you can actually become the princess version of you that we created a few days ago, right? On episode 2. Do you really believe that this is possible for you? Sometimes soul searching may feel redundant, but it is helpful to just ask ourselves, is this something that I actually believe in, or am I just taking myself on another ride? Okay. So again, I hope this was helpful. Really hope you take the tools that I just gave you and you take back control of how you feel in your mind, and you take back control of how you feel in your body. Okay? Alright, sending you so much love, sending you so much light. This is your host, Princess Nani. Connect with me on social. All of my TikTok, Instagram, all of that is in the show description, along with the energy healing sessions that I have mentioned. Also, as a free gift, because I just want to help empower you as much as I can, check out my Planet Princess Hypnosis. That is in the show notes as well. Okay, sending you so much love, sending you so much light. I hope you have a blessed day. Okay, toots. And subscribe to my podcast so that way you never miss an episode and we walk this journey together. This time you will find success. I guarantee it. Toots. Again.